Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC on ESPN +8, Jack Hermansson versus Jacare Souza. We're going to talk about our best bet play that is currently for purchase on Wagertalk. Link down in the description, as well as running over two plays that I'm really excited to talk about. It was a week off. I did not have a show last week, so I was really diving into this card. Very excited to talk about these two fights. But before we do not forget to subscribe, like, kick the bell icon, get involved in the channel. I always appreciate everybody who comments down below. After every video, I continue the conversation down below with the community. You guys have been great. Awesome feedback, and everybody has really been focusing on looking for opportunities to make money down in the comment section. So I suggest everybody go down there, take a look, hit that thumbs up button. Definitely continues to help this channel grow. So we will first get into our free play. Now, our free play is between Alex Oliveira and Mike Perry. Now, this fight, taking a look at it, I think there was a lot of things to really break down here, and I'm going to try to really piece it together in a very short way, because I want to definitely get into another play as well after this. But we will first talk about this fight. Now, Alex Oliveira is currently -180. You've got Mike Perry, who's +150. Now, and again, give or take, shop around, depending which way you're going, definitely shop around. But the first thing with these guys is that they both had ups and downs. I mean, there's been some wins for these guys. There's been some losses for these guys. There's been some really nice highlights for both of them. I think they've done very well in certain spots. They've looked great. And we first look at someone like Mike Perry. Now Perry had the hype behind him. Perry was a kind of guy that, he's a loudmouth. He does talk a lot, and he came off 2 back-to-back knockout victories over Jake Ellenberger and Alex Reyes. And that was really put him on the map. That was really something that put him on the map, had people talking about him. They were 2 spectacular knockouts, and everyone started really paying attention to his power. They're paying attention to his heavy hands, his strength. Overall, he really looked like a raw talent that was a surgeon, that was really looking to elevate and continually do well within the UFC. Then they put him up against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, Ponzinibbio, tough fighter. At that time, he was starting to really build his name. But he went out there and ended up beating Mike Perry in a decision. But I thought that was, a fight where he was just overmatched. I thought there was opportunity there for Perry to maybe fight a little bit smarter. He didn't, and it gave Ponzinibbio the victory. And then the next fight after that was against Max Griffin. And Max Griffin, to me, this was such a winnable fight for Mike Perry. This was a fight that really, I believe, was one that they were, it's not like Max Griffin is terrible by any means, but he's not a guy that really has ever been talked about as the upper echelon, or really, he's really that middle of the road kind of fighter. And this was a fight, in my opinion, was one that they were looking for just a 2 guys stand in the middle, 2 guys brawl. And this was something where Mike Perry should land a big shot and get the victory. And it was the other way around. Mike Perry ended up losing a decision. And I thought, again, bad decisions in the cage for him. He was not really fighting smart. There was opportunities there where he could have capitalized on spots, didn't. And that's really kind of been, and we'll go through that, that's really kind of been his MO. That's kind of the way that he's been. That IQ level has really been a big question mark when you're talking about Mike Perry overall. I mean, definitely got the power, definitely he's got the raw skills, he has the strength, he looks the part, but when it's all between up here, I always see that there's issues with what he does and his decisions that he makes in the cage. And then there was a short notice fight against Paul Felder. Now, this fight was a split decision fight where Mike Perry did get this victory, but this was very close. This was a fight where you could almost give it to Felder, but Felder ended up breaking his arm early in that fight, and that's something to take away from this as well. You have Paul Felder had one arm basically for most of that fight. He tried a spinning back fist, got hit, broke his arm. That was the end of it. And you take a look at now what happened after that. Mike Perry, he really didn't do too much. So you give Paul Felder a lot of credit for sticking it out, being in there, fighting tough, and it was a victory that Perry ended up getting. But overall, I thought that was a fight you could actually possibly give it to Paul Felder. And in his last fight against, most recent fight I should say, against Donald Cerrone. Now, the fight against Donald Cerrone ended up submitting him in the first round, but this was, again, another example of Mike Perry not fighting smart. Mike Perry was in that, early in that fight, looking to pressure, but it's almost like he's almost just focused on one aspect of mixed martial arts. And he's going in there and he's looking for the brutal knockout, and that's going to be the end of it. And he's either going to win it or he's going to lose it. And with Mike Perry, he's been losing it over the last few. He's 1-3 out of his last 4, and I think there is a lot to take away from that after really starting to build that hype train. He was 11-1. Before that, he had a lot going on behind him, and I think the UFC was giving him that push. But with Donald Cerrone, Cerrone's a tough fighter, definitely no slouch when it comes to the UFC, but again, bad decisions that he made, and that low fight IQ is something that I think that Alex Oliveira could possibly exploit going into this fight. Now, you take a look at Alex Oliveira. He's 20-6. And over his last 6 fights, he's 4-2. He's, looked pretty good in spots as well, and certain spots he has not. But I like his pace. I like the pace that he keeps up. I like the way he pushes forward. I think he's very well-rounded. A lot of people, you definitely think, in my opinion, you think a little more of his ground game, I think, when you think about Alex Oliveira. But overall, he's got nice striking. He definitely has good combinations from the outside. He's not scared to throw some flashy stuff. Sometimes lackadaisical with his defense, which could be a scary thing going up against someone like Mike Perry, who does have the power, who's going to be looking for that one big shot. But over his last few fights, his last fight he lost against Gunnar Nelson, and that was a fight there that I thought could be a fight possibly for him that was going to be a tough matchup, but maybe that Oliveira could really start to, utilize his striking a little bit more. And this where Gunnar Nelson, he's a specialist, was able to get Oliveira to the ground, hit him with the brutal elbow, gushing blood all over the place. Those of you who have not seen it, there was blood everywhere, and he ended up finishing Oliveira. Good fight for Nelson, bad showing for Oliveira, but before that, he ended up getting a knockout, and then before that, he ended up getting a submission victory over Carlos Condit. So there's spots that he's looked good. Now, when you take all that together, I like stylistically this fight for Alex Oliveira. Now, I think there's a lot of things that he can exploit here in this fight. When you take a look at it overall, I think that the ground game for Mike Perry, he is very susceptible to being taken down. And he has been taken down overall multiple times in many different fights by some fighters that, definitely has the grappling around. But Mike Perry really lets himself loose a little bit too much, where it allows an opponent like Oliveira to get in tight, get you to the ground. And we have seen Mike Perry struggling to get up. And we have seen, he's got the strength to put the defense and possibly be able to push off the takedowns. But someone like Oliveira, who's going to be able to mix it up top, and of course that first round, I believe, is going to be a little bit scary. I think there's definitely going to be a little bit scary where you've got Mike Perry throwing heavy shots. And if he can weather that first round, which I believe he can, but if he weathers that first round, I think that going through that fight, Mike Perry, you've seen him slow down later in fights, and that's where, he's been able to not pull together a couple rounds to get these decision victories, where he's been losing some of these decision victories. He has not been able to finish fights. That's something that Oliveira, with his pace, I think is really going to push Perry, and also the fact that the same strategy Mike Perry has had over and over and over again. Literally, he has the same strategy. He goes in there, he's very one-dimensional, look for the big shot. And he's not looking to elevate his game. He looks like the same guy that fought years ago, and I don't understand how that happens with the camp that he's in, people that are around him, the young, raw talent that he is. That's something that he's starting to become very easy to game plan for, where there's not much of a guessing game when you're talking about Mike Perry against pretty much anyone. And I think that's how most of these people have beaten him. Most of these fighters have went in there and beaten him with a good game plan. And the fact that he's also talked about retirement is another thing. The fact he's over retirement and flirting with that idea of, he just got married. So the mentality of him is totally different compared to really where I believe he was four or five fights ago where he was the killer, looking to really go out there, make a name for himself, make a title run, and I totally have downgraded him over his last few fights. I was a believer in Mike Perry, not anymore. I believe that Alex Oliveira gets the job done. I think he either is going to find a submission or he's going to be able to piece together, 3 rounds and get the decision. So as my free play, I will go with Alex Oliveira to get the victory. Now, the other one to talk about is John Lineker versus Corey Sandhagen. Now, this fight here, I'm hearing people, again, this is one of those fights where people are definitely all over the place on what they like, and they're passionate about one side or they're passionate about the other side. Now, John Lineker is 31-8. His current price is -138. You've got Corey Sandhagen, who is 10-1, and he's +119. So, here you take a look at it. The first thing that's going to pop out when you're looking at these fighters is you're going to look at the height and reach advantage of Corey Sandhagen. Now, I was a believer in Kelvin Gastelum against Israel Adesanya. This is a completely different scenario. Israel Adesanya had, an 8-inch reach. He had, crazy height, 5-inch height advantage. He had all these advantages. Here it's a little bit different. Now, you definitely have the height advantage for Corey Sandhagen. Corey has an 8-inch height advantage over John Lineker, and then he also has only a 3-inch reach advantage over John Lineker. So Lineker has the definitely the arms, but not the legs when we're talking about the height and the reach overall in this fight. Now the stature is going to go his way, but you take a look overall at what John Lineker has done. Now Lineker is 8-1. Out of his last 9 fights, and his only loss was to TJ Dillashaw. Now, to me, and that's a juiced up TJ Dillashaw, who just got knocked out for 2 years for PEDs. So you've got him. His only loss is against a guy who was the current champion and on PEDs. There's a lot to be said about that. Now, obviously, the stature part of this is going to be something that's going to be a little worrisome when I'm taking a look at this fight, breaking it down, looking at their styles, looking at what they do. And obviously, John Lineker is used to this. This is something that he's used to. He's used to being a smaller guy. He's used to, being the guy that's got to get inside and work tight. But the thing that I like about him overall is the way that he works. Now, he's not, he was before a big headhunter. He's headhunting, looking for the big shot. I think he's really got very smart. He's got more patience. You've seen him in his last 2 fights where he doesn't go out there and just move forward, look for the big bomb. He's actually, conserving his energy, letting the fight come to him, letting those opportunities come to him. And I like the way that he throws his combinations. Now, he's the kind of guy that now does not just headhunt. He has got brutal body shots. His body shots have been something that really have softened up his opponents and allowing them to move their arms down, and they've got to worry about the body shots, and it opens up opportunities up top for him. And the way that he works, the way that he pushes forward is really a lot of great things for me when I'm looking at these 2 fighters. Now, Corey Sandhagen has the opportunity where he's the kind of guy where he's got some flashy shots, he's got the height, he's, got some good movement, some good footwork in there. But we've seen where there's been, in his last 2 fights, he's been dropped. There's been opportunities for him where he's gotten a takedown, where that's something that, hey, maybe he could do that with John Lineker here. But Lineker has definitely elevated his takedown game, his striking game, his patience. And one thing that John Lineker loves out of anything is he loves to fight a pressure fighter. He's a pressure fighter. He wants a pressure fighter. And that's exactly what Corey Sandhagen is. Corey Sandhagen wants to move forward. He wants to take the fight to his opponent. And then if you've got that kind of thing happening, as well as you put together on top that John Lineker and his leg kicks and the way that he's going to be able to have a big target with those big legs of Sandhagen, I think that really leads to John Lineker doing a great job here, putting things together. I like John Lineker here getting the job done. I think there's a lot of great things that you like. If he's going to have a fighter that's going to sit there and trade with him, I like John Lineker in that fight. And the fact that Corey Sandhagen, he's a skinny guy, very tall, but he's going to feel every one of those shots. And I think if the way that he's going to be able to move forward, the price is nice. The price was actually -170, and there I was pretty happy with the price. Didn't place the bet yet. The price went down. There's money going on Sandhagen. I can't blame anybody who's taken him here, but I like Lineker. I think he gets the job done. I think the body shots are going to be a big thing. You're going to see a lot of those leg kicks. I think he finishes Corey Sandhagen possibly in that second round. I think that first round, you're going to see that Sandhagen's going to be putting the pressure, looking for the takedowns, but I think that Lineker goes out there, gets the job done. So as my other play, I'm going John Lineker, and that is it. I was going to talk about the main event. I looked at it, and, again, a lot of people want me to always talk about the main event. This is a tough fight. I mean, and to give you my 2 cents on this is a tough fight. I mean, breaking it down, I was at Jacare versus Chris Weidman, and I had Weidman in that fight. And a lot of it has to do with Jacare's gas tank, with what really he's bringing to the table into that second and third round. Now, this being a 5-round fight is already, to me, is a red flag. And that's, Jacare is a legend. He's 39 years old. He is a legend in the game. His ground game is the most elite of the elite when it comes to the UFC as a whole. But I just didn't like what I saw against Chris Weidman. I mean, Chris Weidman, although, Chris Weidman's a world-class wrestler. You've got, Jacare, world-class grappler. So it was a big time. A lot of it was standing. And I liked Weidman just picking apart Jacare. And pretty much throughout that entire first round and second round, it was all Weidman. I mean, Weidman was going to coast to a victory into that third round, and Weidman just got gassed. He gassed more than Jacare, which I was pretty surprised on, and Jacare landed a shot, was able to finish the fight in that third round. Now, yes, that looks good that he was able to finish the fight in the third round, but I really don't like what Weidman was doing in that fight. And I think that Hermansson has a great opportunity here to make it a striking fight. And I like Hermansson the fact that he was able to submit David Branch. He had another nice submission against another top level or very elite level ground specialist. He's got a lot of great things going on there. And at the price at plus 160, 170 on Hermansson, I like the price there. I think the price is pretty good. I think he's underrated. He has not faced anywhere near the level of Jacare. There's no doubt about it. He has not seen the level of Jacare. To me, I like Hermansson the price here. I think, again, this is a kind of fight where I kind of see it. It's down the middle. I think it's a 50-50 fight. So I always like going with, if I feel, that it is that much of a 50-50 fight, I like taking the plus money on this. To me, I think the plus money is a nice spot here. I have a little bit of exposure on this. I'm not going anywhere crazy on this fight. But I do have, again, it's my best bet play. I will have my money also on John Lineker and as well as Alex Oliveira. So I will have exposure mostly on those 3 fights, but I will have a little bit of exposure on Jack Hermansson. Those are my plays. Do not forget to subscribe. I will have the bet review show out on Sunday, and we've got a list of events coming up, a lot of money to be made. Definitely stick around. Subscribe if you've not yet done so. Hit that like button, and this is Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show, and I'll see you next time.